What's the story, Morning Glory? What is the word, Hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for this review of BelleCollective Season 3, Episode 4, Boys to Men. So the episode starts off with So Gucci. As we all know, Jay's mother is supposed to be staying with them for a while, and this is the day that Jay's mother arrives. And what a grand entrance she made. She wasn't even out of the car. She was still pulling up on the driveway when we heard her before we saw her. She was, I don't know what she was yelling from her car. I think she was yelling for Jay to come get her bags or something, and why wasn't he already out there waiting on her? It was a scene. So she comes inside the house, and this woman is extra. She's a whole lot. I felt like this whole entire scene was extra. Okay, like they're putting 20 on 10 with this scene. And I don't know if if Jay is trying to like really stand out so that maybe him and his family can have their own spinoff. I don't know what was going on, but I thought the mom and Jay and all of that, it was just a lot. I don't really, what did y'all think about the fact that they have plastic over their carpet? What was going on there? So Jay was talking about how they still keep the plastic over the carpet because the carpet is white and so that it doesn't stain. Well, how about upgrading to tile or wood floors? Like, what are we doing with carpet in the living room, especially white carpet at that? And so Jay's mom comes with a list of demands. She's going to make that house her home. They're going to be bowing down to her. And, you know, she's the mom and you got to respect her, but I don't know. That whole scene was just a little bit too much for me. Moving on from there, let's talk about Latrice. This is when things got really dark and really serious. Watching Latrice and Cliff this season, for some reason, it has never been this dark before. And I always, like, whenever their scene comes on and it's the two of them in the scene, I mean, like, I literally tense up because I know it's about to be some BS. And I literally tense up because I'm like preparing myself to witness, you know, this man begin to emotionally and psychologically abuse his wife. Like, I need therapy after watching Cliff and Latrice. So she starts off by saying in her confessional that her and Cliff need to have a discussion about respecting boundaries in public. And what she's really trying to say, in my opinion, is she needs to have a discussion with him so that he doesn't embarrass her in public anymore like he did last time at M-Bar. So, you know, she wants to keep whatever abuse is going on between them. She wants to keep it behind closed doors. She doesn't want him wilding out on her in front of other people. So she invites him to dinner to talk about this. She starts off by apologizing. She says that, you know, she was sorry for going to M-Bar without him knowing. Now, I know that she did that to sort of like appease him in the beginning so that they can have the conversation that she wants them to have. Because if she started off guns blazing or making her demands or telling him what's what, it was going to go left real quick with him. So she started off real gently, and I understand why she was apologizing. And I don't think in her heart of hearts she was sincerely apologizing. I think she was just trying to, you know, soothe the situation, calm him down, keep him calm, or make sure that he starts off calm, because she had no reason to apologize. She was working. This was what she had to do for the scene. The producers, I'm sure, told her, hey, you know, meet up with this person and that person at this location at this time, and, you know, let's go. I don't think really it was her planning that little meeting with Josh and her other friend. But anyways, so she starts off by apologizing to get on his good side. Cliff said that he's the kind of person that once he's done with you, he's done. He's not going to socialize and pretend to be your friend and kiss and make up later. Once you are out of his life, you're considered his number one enemy, and he don't fool with you no more. He goes, I'm not like, you know, y'all women, you know, y'all are quick to fight and then kiss and make up. He goes, I don't do that. I'm a man and we don't do that. Which I beg to differ, because in all of these reality TV shows dealing with relationships and marriages and all of this, when there's like a husband cast, the husbands will get into it with whoever, and then they're really quick to make up with one another. You know, they'll yell at each other, they'll cuss each other out, they'll argue this and that. Very next scene, you know, they're having drinks together. They're having beers together. They're going to some event together. They're over it. It's the women who hold on to the grudges. So Cliff got that a little bit turned around. It's the women who hold on to grudges. The men don't really. So he was basically upset that after he kicked out Josh and Josh became public enemy number one, his wife was still socializing with him, and he felt betrayed by that. He's like, if I'm not fooling with him, you shouldn't be fooling with him either. But I have to find out, you know, from somebody else that you're meeting up with him at some bar, like y'all are, kumbaya BFFs. And I don't like that because I just kicked this man out of my house. So that was his whole issue. Latrice says in her confessional, my husband is an example of what a man should be. When, where, how, and who? What? This man is an example of what a man should be? Okay, maybe she's talking about the fact that he's a provider, but she provides for herself. She has her own business. She makes her own income. So she really doesn't need Zaddy's money. Okay, so it can't be that she's referring to. I don't know why she takes, and I hate it when women do this, when a man is very misogynistic and very controlling and demanding and doesn't allow his wife to, live her best life. They consider this as, oh, this is how a man should be. A man should be controlling. A man should try to stifle his wife. This is how a man should. This is an example of what a real. No, it's not. This is an example of an abusive man. Now, granted, he's not putting his hands on you, but this is emotional and mental abuse. You are a grown woman and he treats you like a child. Okay? That's not acceptable in any way. This is not an example of how any man should be. You should allow your wife to thrive, to succeed, to be who she is, to support her, to love her, care for her, respect her, and not treat her like a child and just completely disregard her thoughts and her feelings. So I disagree with that, Latrice. This is not how a man should be. So first, Cliff says that Latrice doesn't communicate and address problems. Okay, that was his main issue. He's like, well, she doesn't want to talk about problems. She's the kind of person that if there's a problem, she goes to bed, she wakes up the next day, and she acts like nothing happened. Then he says that he's the man of the house, and what he says goes. So what is the point of her communicating and talking about issues and problems if what you say goes? If what you say is the law of the land, and it doesn't matter what she says or what she wants or how she feels. And maybe that's the reason why she doesn't confront problems. It's because you're just going to shut her up, and you're going to tell her, I don't care about what you're talking about. It's going to be my way or the highway. And that's why she goes to sleep without talking about anything and wakes up the next day as if nothing has happened, because she knows that her voice is not going to be heard. Latrice attempts to talk about boundaries. He shuts that down. Latrice attempts to talk about equality in their marriage. He quickly shuts that down. And as she's talking about, aren't we equals or aren't I your equal? He straight up tells her, no, Treese, you're not. Straight up tells her, you are not my equal. There is no equality in this marriage. Now, I'm just like flabbergasted that this woman who is intelligent, educated, business owner is allowing this country bumpkin man to control her like this. And I'm telling you, watching Latrice and Cliff, it makes me feel like I need to go to therapy because I'm witnessing something that is just so traumatic. And I don't understand why she would even sign up for this show if she knew how her husband was and how he treats her. Why do you want the world to see that? Or maybe this is a cry for help. Let's move on to So Gucci. She meets up with Akeisha and Marie. Gucci tells the ladies about her mother-in-law moving in and all the issues that goes with that and how she's going to be staying with them for who knows how long, because when they asked her point blank, Mama, how long you staying? Mama said, until I don't feel like staying here no more. Marie tells Akeisha about Glenn and what had happened at the condo when they were trying to sign the papers for the condo, and then Letitia's husband just popped up out of nowhere and how they had to run and hide from him. They weren't expecting him, and it was like a big old scene, and how Marie was trying to tell Glenn, that this was her property or whatever, her condo or whatever the hell, and he had to leave, so on and so forth. And Akeisha, the only thing she said was, well, I'll go ahead and put her on my prayer list. That's all she said. She didn't say nothing else about that scene. So obviously there's friction between Akeisha and Letitia because of the whole Farish Street situation. And it's just really weird how when the show started, what's her name? Letitia was really big on, Farish Street. I'm going to renovate it and blah, blah, blah. And then Akeisha shows up on the scene and just completely took over and kicked Letitia out of that whole entire project. Akeisha brings up Latrice's wig release event, and Marie says that she's not going. Gucci says that she's not going. We know why Gucci ain't going, because of the whole, real estate situation where Latrice had ended up going with another real estate agent to get her business property. And Marie's not going because she's always felt like Latrice was a snake in the grass, that she was not trustworthy. So neither one of them are going to be attending Latrice's wig release event. Marie says that Latrice is a snake in the grass and that she needs to be locked up in one of her mental facilities, because we know that Marie owns a whole bunch of rehabilitation and mental facilities. And she says that Latrice needs to be in one of them. She needs to be an inpatient pronto. Moving on to Glenn. So Glenn is meeting up with Cliff. This was hilarious. Man, there are some scenes on this show that are just knee slappers. Glenn thought everything was going to be back to normal between him and his wife Letitia after they got the negative DNA results, because we know last season he was caught fooling around on Letitia. The girl said she was pregnant by Glenn, and they had to do a DNA test. And so the test came out negative. On the reunion, they revealed the results of the test, and the test was negative. And, after that, him and Letitia hooked up. And so he thought that things were going to be back to normal after that. He's surprised to see that they are still struggling, that Letitia is still trying to keep her distance from him, that they're not being intimate anymore. And it's really difficult for him because, he's an everyday, all day kind of guy. He needs it multiple times a day, every single day. And so he's been struggling, but he hasn't been acting out on his temptation or acting out on his desires with anybody else. He's waiting for Letitia to come around. And Cliff basically told him that, because your wife she's gotten her own condo, she's trying to move into her own space, you need to move on. He says you got to move on because that's what she's doing. She's moving on. So Glenn tells Cliff about the intimacy issues, how they're not doing anything. And he's getting really, frustrated in that department. And Cliff tells him, well, dress up like a woman. And if that works, then you'll know what the problem is. And Glenn was like, what? I ain't dressing up like no woman. And I think what Cliff was trying to say is, trying to hint at, this is how you're going to find out whether or not, your wife is staying away from you because she might be into women. I think that's what he was trying to imply. But so I guess he was like, if you dress up like a woman and if she's down with it, then that's going to let you know that she's a lesbian. And that's why she's staying away from you. That's why she's not interested. It was so crazy. This conversation was just like out in La La Land. This conversation was the most bizarre conversation that I've ever heard in my life. So Glenn thinks that the punishment doesn't fit the crime. He thinks that it's not fair that he has to go this long without it, when he feels like, what I did wasn't really that bad. And plus the DNA results were negative. Why can't we be back to normal? Moving on to Latrice. So Latrice, her mother comes over and they talk about her marriage and how demanding and controlling her husband is. And the mom says that she does agree that Cliff is definitely controlling and that Cliff is holding Latrice down. And like Latrice herself has said, Cliff is dimming her light. So the mom says that she was in a similar situation with Latrice's father, but she got the hell on out of there. She's like, I can't take this. I'd rather do bad by myself with my 6 children, struggle by myself than be in here struggling with this man. And Latrice says that she's too scared to leave. She feels she's very dependent on Cliff and she's too scared to leave. And that's what happens when you try so hard to paint this picture that your marriage is perfect, that everything is just hunky-dory wonderful. And now you have to admit to the world that there's problems. Because if you get up and walk away, that's going to be letting the world know that, oh, wait a minute, your marriage ain't so perfect. Your husband isn't so perfect, because now you're leaving him. But you got to do what you got to do for your own mental peace. Moving on to Aikisha. She's meeting with Grand Sand. So Grand Sand is her biological aunt on her father's side. This is her father's sister. And this is a woman that raised her and that who she sees as a mother figure. She does refer to her as her mother. So we find out that Aikisha is a product of an affair. Her father was a married man and he had an affair with Aikisha's mother. Aikisha was the result of that. And I guess neither parent, obviously the father couldn't raise her because he had a whole family. Not sure why the mother couldn't raise her. So her father's sister and her father's parents took her in and raised her. And so we got to see a softer side of Akeisha when she's talking to Grandson. And they talk about Ferris Street. They talk about, which is just bizarre to me, that Akeisha took over Ferris Street and it's no longer Letitia's project. And I guess they talk about, you know, her mother, Grandson, is a very accomplished woman. She was an anesthesiologist, I think. She was also a psychiatrist. She's retired part-time from psychiatry, completely retired from anesthesiology. You know, she's just build this wonderful legacy that she's going to be passing on to Akeisha and eventually to Akeisha's children. It's just a beautiful story of, you know, black people doing the damn thing. Moving on to Glenn. So he's in the music studio, y'all. I thought he'd got an interest in music when this show took off because he's trying to capitalize on that and trying to live out his dreams of being a rapper or a singer or whatever he's trying to do. But no, Glenn has always been dabbling in music. It's been a part of his life, his whole entire life. He was even part of a rap group called Ghetto Prophet, I think. Ghetto Prophet? Yeah. So, or he was called Ghetto Prophet. I'm not really sure. But music has been a part of his life way before this show came around. And so he says him and Letitia, they communicate through music, which we know that to be true because there was that one particular season when Letitia was trying to make it up to Glenn for something because this is when she discovered that she wanted to be a businesswoman and she was tired of being a stay-at-home wife. And so what she did was, I guess, to kind of soften, I don't remember how it went, so long ago, but to make him kind of like accept the fact that she's going to be this brand new woman, but she's still going to be his wife and still cater to him. At the same time, she wants to, you know, build her business and build her brand and do this other professional thing on the side. So I guess to make it, I don't know, she was trying to be apologetic to, I don't know what she was doing, but she hired a girl to sing for him. And so the girl was hiding in the closet when Glenn came home. And then when Glenn came home, Letitia gave her the signal. I don't know what the girl was doing in the closet, but she completely missed the signal. She had to try a couple of times. The girl finally comes out and sings the song to Glenn. And it was just how Letitia was communicating to her husband. So yeah, they do communicate through music because now he's in the studio and he's writing the song for Letitia, his lady love. Jay comes over, right? And they talk about relationships because Jay himself has been through a divorce, which is with Selena. And he talked about how he was waiting for 3 years for Selena to come back to him until he realized it just wasn't going to happen. And I guess he's also trying to let Glenn know you need to move on. It might not happen the way you think it's going to happen and you need to move on. And Glenn says that he doesn't want to give up on his marriage because he grew up in a broken home without his father. His words, not mine. And now he doesn't want his son growing up in a broken home. His words, not mine. So he gets a call in the middle of his conversation with Jay and it's like an emergency situation. So he has to get up and leave. He goes straight to Letitia's office and he tells Letitia that his grandmother had to go to the hospital or something. So Letitia calls his sister Tanisha, and Tanisha gives them all the information that yes, grandma's really sick, that they're going to send her home from the hospital with a bunch of pain medicine, and then she's going to have to go to hospice. So this obviously affects Glenn and Letitia as well because he's very close to his grandmother, so they're very, you know, distraught about this. Now this whole scene, when Letitia called his sister to get the info and, you know, Glenn didn't call his sister himself, that showed me, and the fact that he went straight to Letitia after getting the news, that showed me how dependent and how important Letitia is to Glenn, how much he really does need her, how much he leans on her for everything. So my question is, Glenn, why did you hurt her? If this woman is so important to you and she's such an intricate part of your life and such an intricate part of your family, why did you do her so dirty by cheating on her and possibly getting another woman pregnant? Why did you do that? Thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. On your way out, please do not forget to rate the video. If you like this content, go ahead and subscribe to my channel and I'll definitely talk to you later. Bye.